Tell me what you saw.
A yellow jacket.
Was it, what kind of bug was it?
Yellow jacket.
Can you tell me it was that you saw a creepy bug? Can you tell me that?
No, it was a yellow jacket.
Okay. What did you tell me the yellow jacket was at first? What was it? What did you say?
Creepy bug.
Creepy bug.
A what?
Creepy bug.
You saw a creepy bug?
No, it's a yellow jacket.
Well, howdy do everyone, and welcome back to the ranch. More specifically, I guess, welcome back to the shop again. Why? Same reason as last time. It's about 10,000 degrees outside, and thanks to Mr. Cool, it's 73 degrees in here in the shop right now. So we may spend the rest of the summer doing videos right here in the good old Blazer. But anyway, thanks again for stopping by today. Yes, we did sell the house. And gosh, how do I start this video? Well, I guess we'll just jump right into it. About 5,000 years ago, this cute little girl right here and I decided we wanted to spend the rest of our forevers together. And I had a dream that I wanted to be a veterinarian. And she was very accommodating to that dream. She was a practicing dental hygienist, and I too had a good job. I was a clerk at the post office there in Denton. And we quit both those good jobs and packed up our meager belongings and headed south to the only vet school in the state of Texas, down to College Station, Texas, where we would set up shop for the next 7 years. Fortunately, her parents owned a condominium in that town, and they offered it up to us cheap. So that worked out really, really well. It was a really, really nice little place. We really loved it. It had a really cool atrium in the middle of the house. The yard needed a little bit of work, but by golly, we were going to be there for quite a while, so I knew we could get it in shape. It was just about 1,400 square feet, but it was about 1 block from campus, which made it really, really nice. So we moved into this comfy little place. We arrived in town with my big white cat Springer, who totally hated taking baths. We also had Pat's little tiny tan-colored Pomeranian named Sugar, who was totally spoiled rotten. And in this picture you can see not only Sugar, but also look what's up in the tree above Pat. But over the years, our love for this little house just grew bigger. The trees in the yard and all the nice hedges, they just grew bigger too. And there was also something else that was growing bigger. And before we knew it, I was hanging banners, and our life was changing forever. And Matt was born my 3rd year in vet school. You can see me here wearing a pair of coveralls. I must have had large animal duty that day. If you look closely, you can see a burp rag on my left shoulder. And it was not uncommon for me to get to class, only to have my classmates tell me that I had some white chunky milk running down the back of my shirt. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's been there. This picture right here was taken in one of my favorite places. I used to love to go out, sit on the porch in a lawn chair, especially during the spring, because there was a baseball field right across the street, and the high school kids were always out there playing baseball under the lights late at night. I remember one night in particular, I was sitting there watching the game, and there was a storm on the horizon coming in, and the game was just about over, and about that time, out of the blue, came a giant lightning bolt. It hit the baseball diamond, and about 6 or 7 kids fell to the ground. I got up and ran across the street as fast as I could, looking for a way to get through the chain link. But about that time, I noticed all the kids were getting up off the ground, and their parents were coming down after them. And I don't know if it was electricity or if it was just the force, the concussion from that thunder, but it scared the heck out of me. I was so thankful to see all those little kids get up. And you know what's interesting? That was 40-something years ago. And to me, I remember it just like it was yesterday. It's amazing the things that we remember. When I don't know what I had for breakfast yesterday. And there at Texas A&M, there was always a lot of college things to do. But after we had a baby, we really didn't care to do that much stuff anymore. But we did take Matt to some of the more important, some of the big highlights of Texas A&M. And one of those was going to the Aggie Bonfire, which was a huge event. And I'm glad we got it recorded on film. And little did we know or could conceive of the tragedy that would happen there just a short 15 years later as a bonfire collapsed, falling and killing 12 young Aggies. And one other thing we really enjoyed about this little house was some neighbors that we had just 2 doors down. This is Laura and Kyle. They turned out to be some of the best friends we ever had. And after I'd been in school with some of these other students for 6 and 7 years, we got pretty close to a lot of them. And every now and then, despite the fact that none of us had any money, we'd get together and have some parties. And with no money to spare, you couldn't go out and buy a bunch of party clothes. But my sweet wife, being the seamstress type that she is, kept the 3 of us in vogue in stylish duds. But soon graduation time rolled around and family and friends came from far and wide to watch me walk the stage. And as soon as I got done with that, I loaded up that U-Haul, and with Matt in the car seat and my wife in tears, I put the pedal to the metal and we got out of that town. Pat's parents soon sold that sweet little house that we lived in there in College Station, but it had a spot in our heart that we always loved, and we talked about it frequently. And then we came to this town. I bought a vet practice, set up another vet practice, and before I knew it, 18 years had gone by, and it was time for Matt to go to college. So Matt wanted to be a veterinarian, so we headed back to A&M again. We put Matt in a dormitory for a year. I really wanted all the kids to spend their first year just learning how to be a student at college, not having to worry about where the grocery store is or where to park or anything like that. So we put them in a dorm. And I think Matt's first year of dorm life, just the room part of it, cost $9,000. And doing the math that year, my wife and I started realizing Matt was probably going to go to vet school, so there's 8 years. Allie was probably going to go to vet school, so there's 8 more years. Mark and Drew, more than likely 4 years apiece, at least. So you start multiplying 8 and 8, 16, and another 4 and 4. That's 24 times $9,000 a month. That turns into some serious cash in a hurry. So my wife and I decided at that point in time we needed to come back to College Station and buy a house. So we loaded up in the car one time and came back to College Station, and we started doing house hunting. And my wife commented, she said, "You're not going to believe this." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "Our old house that we love so much is for sale." And I said, "You're kidding me." So we drove over there by it, and there was indeed a for sale sign out in front of it. But sadly, it had a little addendum to it that said, "Sale pending." So we called the realtor. She said, "Yeah, it sat here for about 8 or 9 months with no action on it whatsoever. And just a few weeks ago, someone came in and agreed to buy the house." So we were brokenhearted. We'd missed our little dream home by just a few weeks. But we looked around and didn't see anything that measured up to our expectations like that little house would. And then, lo and behold, a few weeks later, the realtor called us and said that the prospective buyer's funding had fallen through. They were not going to be able to buy the house, and if we wanted it, it was ours. So guess what? So Matt moved in with 2 of his buddies, and they started their sophomore year right there in our sweet little old house. And over the years he lived there, it just made me wonder how someone so sweet and lovable and precious and so doggone cute would take such a crazy and torturous route between here and here. Maybe it had something to do with the company he kept, or maybe it was the cars he drove. But even his choice of dining room tables was contingent upon its ability to double as a beer pong table. Beer pong, just one of the games that prompted me to remove all downstairs carpeting. Guess why? And yes, Matt, Mark, and I ripped out all the carpeting and replaced it with a nice durable flooring, which shockingly withstood all the ripsticks, skateboards, motorcycles, pogo sticks, and yes, beer pong for the next 18 years. It still looks good. And soon there was another handsome Carriker moving in to our sweet little house. Mark moved in his second year of college as well and pretty much chose to live a Harry Potter-esque existence, sleeping in the closet. And about this time, the guys started a trend of painting the walls. And for the next several years, the walls constantly changed color. And with Matt and Mark both living in the townhouse now, it pretty much became the quintessential bachelor pad. There were coolers ever present in the atrium. An extra beer refrigerator was moved in. The washer and dryer, well, let's just say this, they didn't wear it out. For the most part, the boys did pretty well in school, but they really excelled at having fun. On one of our visits to College Station, we noticed the tall window at the front of the house had been completely filled, top to bottom, with green glass bottles, which cast an odd green hue and strange reflections inside the house. I'm not really sure what kind of drink those green bottles held, but I would put money that it was not ginger ale. And it looks like they had a few spares on deck waiting their turn, just in case a few fell out of that front window. And here again, in these pictures, if you notice, the walls changed color again. And like I said, it became the ultimate bachelor pad. Actually had some nice plants and ficus trees out in the atrium, looking pretty sharp. And Matt and Mark really, really loved it there. And as the years went by, the boys took care of the house, they took care of the yard, trees got bigger, the grass got more lush. Here you can see a picture of Mark walking through the beautiful St. Augustine grass. And as time went along, if there was need or if we had a little bit of extra money, we were always working on this house. Things that would protect the house or things that would be improvements to the house. And here's Mark framing in a new back door. And from time to time repairing dents in the AC units where it probably got whacked by a car or a motorcycle. And this next segment is called Things I Learned from My Boys. Number 1, unless previously directed or ordered to, boys age 20-something will do laundry only after all their clothes reek. Number 2, they will keep lawn chairs on the roof. Number 3, they will change oil on their motorcycles in the kitchen. Number 4, they will pour aquarium rocks down the garbage disposal. And number 5, they will remove fence slats to facilitate going next door to visit girls. Things I learned, thought you might need to know that. And over all these years, I only had to evict one kid, and that's because he had grown his own little mini plantation of marijuana under the staircase in a little hidden area behind the pantry. There was a little trap space back in there, and he had gone in there and he had opened up the wall that I had sealed shut and started his little farming garden back in there with grow lights and everything. The biggest problem with that is if he had gotten caught in that house, Matt would have got kicked out of vet school. So I felt kind of bad about it, and I really do in retrospect, but we sent him on his merry little way. He wound up moving in with some kids across the street, so all was cool. But anyway, kids, you never know what you're going to find. And after a few years, the little house got a whole lot calmer. After Matt moved out, Mark got married, and Mark and Jackie, by themselves, lived in our little house. And once they had graduated and left, Allie and her friends moved in. And now with Allie and a bunch of girls in there, the wall colors continued changing. The trees continued to grow, as did our family. Comfy chairs and side tables replaced motorcycles in the atrium. The newly painted laundry room for 3 girls was no longer neglected. And then, as if in a heartbeat, 8 years blew by, and the new Dr. Allie was done with college. And so was I thought. And that was 2019, and we continued to rent it out until just a few months ago. But we're getting older, our eyesight's not that good, our reflexes aren't that good. It just didn't make sense for old people like us to be driving back and forth to check on our rental property in College Station. So we put it up for sale. And the realtors came in. They ordered all the walls to be blank and white with no personal touches left behind. So we neutered our sweet little house. We made it immaculately clean. We repaired everything. I totally hated the sterile hospital look as it completely erased everything Carriker in the whole sweet little house. But the realtors were 100% correct, and the little house quickly sold for the asking price. And I've got to tell you, walking out that back door for the very last time, I had to stop and reflect back on 43 years of life since this pretty little girl and I first went through that doorway going in instead of out. And before I exited the house, I just stopped for a minute and I kissed that old back door and I told that little house that she had been a good friend, and I thanked her sincerely for taking care of my family for all those years.